Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube audiobook series for The Forbidden Truth, written by Abby Matthias. I am Darius, and today I will be introducing Chapter 28. If you missed Chapter 27, link is in the description below, along with the playlist. And if you are all caught up and ready to go, we will continue on with Chapter 28, The Demonic Fuse.
The morning after the interaction with Satan, I woke up within Damien's arms holding me close to his chest. My arms were wrapped around him as well, but it wasn't as tightly as his arms were gripping me. I remembered this is how I fell asleep as I cried in front of my boyfriend. He consoled me as I sobbed within his arms. It was comforting while he surrounded me with his brawn. I had a cocoon of safety, and I laid within it while waiting for him to wake up. As for that day, we all kind of chilled out and spent time together. Darius and Nala made us a delicious lunch consisting of burgers and fries. Not only that, but it was homemade. Mrs. Stone worked on the potatoes while her husband grilled the burgers. Regardless, it was definitely a picker-upper after the fiasco I experienced. But that is besides the point. We all actually had a wonderful time together. Darius was able to tell stories about his demon life, while Damien and Nala shared more of their lives. Not only did it allow them to connect, but it allowed me to see their more vulnerable sides. It showed me how much of a family they were regardless of Darius's state. They did include me in the conversations as well to ensure I wasn't feeling left out, but my main focus was to distract my mind from what it wanted to think about. The scene from earlier that morning was slowly creeping into my thoughts and torturing me mentally. As much as I wanted to say that I wasn't a part of the demon world, I was dragged into it more than ever. Satan has confessed his love for me, and I sickened at it. He wanted to make me his bride regardless of me being human. The memory worked against me in times where my mind drifted off. Yet Darius was quick in noticing my shift in mood and managed to drift me out of that state of mind. So as time went by, I tried my best to not focus on the past and made it successfully to the next day. Fast forwarding a bit, it was Sunday, the last day that I was able to stay overnight by Damien, at least until next week. We all agreed that I could stay at the house anytime because of being paired with Darius. Plus, I didn't want to separate their family and not visit them. My schedule was going to change a bit, but not by much. Regardless, I was going to see the Stone family at least twice a week, and I was okay with that. Besides the point, I woke up around 8 o'clock in the morning and everyone was still asleep. I had awakened because of a night terror. However, I didn't freak out enough to wake my boyfriend. Once again, Damien was wrapped around me and pressing me into his chest. He looked peaceful and happy as he slept, but I needed to get up. There was no way I was going to be able to go back to bed. So thinking quietly to myself, I fused out of my body and decided to go upstairs using my demon spirit. Once again, silence filled the home while I passed through it. Darius and Nala were in their bedroom. I passed through the living room and made my way into the kitchen when I had a good idea, which was of course making breakfast for everyone. Rummaging around to find what I could make, I found an unopened box of pancake mix, along with fresh blueberries and hash browns. Upon those sights, I set myself to make a breakfast for a family of 4. About 30 minutes passed, and I was finishing up making the pancakes when I heard the basement door open. Damien was awake, but I heard him grunting and struggling to do something. However, it was short-lived as I heard an exhale of relief sound, along with a soft thump. I couldn't check out what the commotion was as I was afraid of leaving the stove unattended. Yet, within about a minute, I saw my beloved boyfriend walk around the corner and greet me.
Good morning, Abby.
Good morning, Damien. What was with the grunting? What were you doing?
carrying your body up here. I was trying to wake you up and you wouldn't. Considering what I witnessed yesterday, I kind of put the sound and smell of cooking along with your unconscious body together. So I figured I would make it easier for you and bring your body up here for whenever you want to fuse back into it.
Sweetheart, you most certainly didn't have to do that, I stated with shock. I could have just walked downstairs to do so. But regardless of that, thank you for doing that. I still appreciate your kind gesture.
It was nothing, my love. Anything for you.
A moment's pause played between us. However, it was eventually broken by another one of his comments.
How do you look so beautiful as a human and a demon?
What? I asked back. How can you love me as this female demon? This really isn't normal, Damien.
Oh, trust me. I know it isn't. But it's true. You're just so hot in both worlds. I would fuck you in that form if I could.
Damien! I exclaimed, feeling my cheeks getting redder by the second.
Again, it's true. I don't care if you're technically within the form of a hellspawn. You are still the sweetest, most beautiful woman I know. I mean, come on now. You are currently making breakfast for your boyfriend's family within a demon spirit. That says something.
I know, but doesn't it feel just any sort of weird to you?
No, it doesn't. But I do have a question to ask you.
And what might that question be?
How does it feel to be like that? A succubus.
Upon the question, I stayed silent to truly think. I first needed to switch to cooking hash browns as I finished the pancakes and placed them in the oven to stay warm. I had the pan and all of that ready to go. I just needed to fry it up. So, once I was situated, it gave me enough time to think of my response to him. It depends on the situation. Currently, it feels natural. I've had enough time to get used to my demon spirit. However, I'll never shake away the weariness I have when it comes to my heart situation.
What heart situation?
I don't know if you've noticed it yet or not, but I don't have a heartbeat within this form.
Wait, really?
He said, walking around the counter to be close to me. Yes. I'm technically supposed to be a dead hellspawn. There are no heartbeats. Unless you are Darius and it somehow activates with his firepower.
Dad has an ability with fire?
Damien screamed. Immediately I turned to him and quickly covered his mouth. I began to shush him and listen for movement within the parents' bedroom. I still heard nothing, but to be safe, I warned my boyfriend about his volume. Damien, your parents are still sleeping, and they are right down the hall. Turn your voice down a bit, please. He nodded his head while grabbing my hand to pull it off his face. Slowly, his mouth was uncovered again, and I saw excitement in his eyes. Yes, Darius is able to create fire and utilize it as he pleases. The only thing is that after he is done using it, the heart inside him beats as if it regenerates his fire.
Wow. What other powers does he have?
Psychokinesis, force field, shape-shifting, possession, fire, muscular expansion, wings, and another pair of arms.
What?
He exclaimed again while whispering, except this time he grabbed a hold of my arm and pulled me down to his level. Luckily, I finished making the first batch of hash browns and was prepping the pan again.
My dad has a hidden pair of arms and wings? And what do you mean by muscle expansion?
Yes, he does. And to put it in simple terms, his muscles grow and makes him look like a bodybuilder.
That is so cool,
he stated. As I looked upon his face, He looked so innocent, almost like his childhood self. So pure and wondrous about fantasy lands and abilities that would never come to reality. Yet somehow, to his surprise, his dad and girlfriend both had supernatural powers. Because of his expression, it made me smile. I couldn't help but feel the overwhelming feeling of cuteness and innocence coming from him.
Your emerald eyes are just as beautiful as your brown ones.
He said, staring straight at me.
They are mesmerizing to look into. You are beautiful.
Do you really think so? I asked softly.
Of course. And I would like to prove it.
Just after that, he slowly placed his hand on my cheek and lowered my head down to kiss him. Now, as my lips clashed with Damien's, I felt my normal rush of feelings flood my body. The heat, the tingles, the clouded mindset. The only thing was that everything began at the same time. It didn't phase through and slowly kick in like it normally did. Instead, within nanoseconds, my stomach began to tie in knots and I became sensitive. Everything was sped up and I was clueless as to why. Yet those thoughts didn't stop my body from picking him up and setting him on the counter. I didn't have to bend awkwardly just to kiss my boyfriend. My breathing began to pick up while I kept trying to tell my body to stop, yet it didn't. At least not until I heard someone clear their throat.
Take it easy on my son, Abby. We don't want to break him now, do we?
Immediately after hearing that, my body released Damien and backed up to give space. I turned myself to Darius as he gave me a sarcastic smirk while he leaned up against the side wall in the hallway.
I don't know what the hell happened.
I said, practically out of breath.
I tried to stop myself, but I couldn't. I didn't mind at all.
Damien said, chiming in while still sitting on the counter, smiling the biggest smile I have ever seen.
I'm sure you didn't, Damien. But Abby still needs to be careful when she gets like that.
Why is that?
Because demon emotions are heightened compared to human emotions. Anything she feels will be intensified. As she spends time in her demon spirit, she will get more used to it. However, considering she has never felt the way she did just now in that form, it will overpower her for the time being.
And how do you know that?
I've experienced it myself when I first became a demon. I've had to live within this body for 14 years, Damien. I've had plenty of time to adjust to the changes. But that's besides the point. I smell breakfast. Need a hand, Abby?
Upon his question, I nodded my head, and Darius helped set up breakfast with me. Eventually, Nala made her way out of the bedroom just in time for breakfast to be served. We all sat down as a family once more and indulged in small talk. I, of course, fused back into my body in order to feed myself. I was my human self once more, and enjoying the sight of my second family. Everyone thanked me for breakfast and complimented the meal. But once everyone was done eating, I began the cleanup process. Or, at least I tried to. Abby, sweetheart, you have done so much already this morning. Let us do cleanup for you, Nala said, placing her hand on my back. It's okay, Mrs. Stone. I made the mess. It's only right for me to clean up after myself. Nonsense. You cooked the meal and prepared breakfast. That was a lot of work. Go sit on the couch and relax. Darius, Damien, and I will do the rest.
Do as she says, Abby. That's not a request. That's an order as your protector demon.
Darius said, including himself in the conversation. And what if I say no? I asked.
You know damn well you can't. Don't make me use my psychokinesis to plant your butt on the couch.
All right, I'll go sit. And with that, I walked into the living room to supposedly relax. It felt weird not being able to help out. To best describe it, my morals kept telling me to get off my butt and assist in cleanup. Yet I knew well Darius would use any means necessary to keep me seated. So my brain tossed and turned with thoughts while I stayed put. As I waited about 5 minutes, I suddenly felt a ball of energy growing within the pit of my chest. It was very faint at first. However, as the time went by, it grew stronger and stronger. Eventually, it was so strong that my body jolted forward as if it was trying to pull me. As that happened, I gasped and brought my hand to my chest as if to make it stop.
Abby, are you okay?
Damien asked as he was wiping down the table. I don't know, I said honestly. Something doesn't feel right. Just after that, I heard Darius grunt while silverware dropped. Nala instantly vocalized herself and asked him if he was okay, yet he said nothing. His breath hitched slightly, and he moved around the counter in order to gain sight of me. Darius looked just as shocked as I was, our eyes wide and staring at each other. At least until the energy jolt simultaneously acted up once more from both him and I. At that point, we knew what was going to happen. Yet I really didn't want it to.
Dad? What the heck is going on? What's with the jolting?
Another ability that is randomly acting up. We haven't explained it yet.
Another jolt commenced, except this time it almost made me fly off the couch while my demon stumbled and caught himself with a dining room chair. What do you mean an ability is acting up? Which one of your powers would affect Abby and yourself? Nala asked, running to her husband's side. Darius, this can't happen! Not now! I exclaimed, not letting him answer his wife. This will only confuse them more.
I know, but we don't really have a choice. The energy won't stop until we fuse.
Once again, the energy force within our chest brightened and tugged at us to come together. I grabbed onto the couch for dear life while he was able to reach for the counter. However, it was only going to be a matter of seconds before the next jolt would probably fuse us together. Yet I had a quick idea pop into my head that I wanted to present to Darius, and fast. What happens if I quickly leave my body right now? That way you can inhabit my body and the half and half can't happen.
It's worth a shot at this point. Get out of your body, now!
He demanded. Then as fast as lightning, I closed my eyes and flowed out of my body to become my demon spirit. At that moment, the energy still made itself known within my chest. However, we stopped jolting, and the energy wasn't trying to pull us together. Darius and I were able to catch our breaths, while Damien and Nala began to vocalize their concerns.
Are you two okay?
Yeah, I think so. What the heck was that about? Why did the jolting stop?
Because Abby isn't in her body. When that normally happens, Abby and I are forced to become one within her body. We fuse together while inhabiting her human vessel. The only thing is that we haven't had that overwhelming energy form like that in a while. We have willingly fused since then, and we're not forced into it.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that you and Abby can be in her body at the same time? Nala asked.
Yes. The technical term for it is called half and half. We both have control of the body, however, it's only half of it. Normally, Abby gets control of the right side while I control the left. Or at least that's what mainly happens.
So because no one is in the body, the fuse can't happen?
Apparently. That was a good idea you had, Abby.
Darius said, smiling at me once more. I smiled back, receiving his compliment. Knowing that we were okay, I began to walk over to the rest of the group. Yet as I took my first 2 steps, the energy within my chest grew by an overwhelming amount. I grew slightly weary as the energy filled my chest, However, this sudden force felt different. Eventually, it began to spread to every inch of my body, while most of it stayed in the middle of my chest. Looking at my demon again, he looked just as concerned about what was happening. His eyes were wide as his breath picked up again. Yet as this was all happening, he began to illuminate into a ray of red. Looking down at myself, I began to glow magenta with the same amount of intensity.
Darius, what the hell is happening?
I asked, panicked.
I don't know, but I'm afraid it isn't something good.
With that out in the air, the most powerful jolt erupted within our chests, and we were once again holding onto objects for dear life. Darius holding onto the kitchen counter, while I held onto the frame of the doorway next to the couch.
Damien, Nala, get back against the wall.
Darius screamed. Nala tried to refuse, however his son obeyed his orders and pulled his mother away to stand on the farthest wall away from us. At this point, the energy was constantly pulling us together. The only thing was that it kept growing stronger as we tried to resist it. Eventually, it led to our feet being taken off the ground and pulled us horizontally towards each other. I kept using all of my strength to keep a hold of the wooden frame, yet it was slowly beginning to leave me like breath.
Abby, we can't fight this anymore. We are gonna have to let this happen.
Darius said, struggling to hold himself back.
Darius, we have never fused like this in the demon world. We don't know what the hell will happen if we do. I don't want to scare your family. I'm already scared enough as it is.
I know, but this won't stop until we fuse. Either we both let go at the same time, or I'm going to slam into you by letting go. Your choice.
Regretting everything that was happening, I didn't have enough time to think before the energy jolted within our bodies again and physically became too much for us. We both ended up being torn away from our grasps and ended up slamming into each other within the middle of the living room. After that, I don't remember a thing. I blacked out and fell unconscious.
Darkness greeted me another time, and it wasn't because of falling asleep. I don't know how long it lingered. However, eventually I started to regain my senses as muffled voices began to fill my eardrums.
Darius, sweetheart, can you hear me? Are you in there?
Is everyone okay? Is there anything we could do to help?
As the seconds passed, my hearing came back fully while my vision was still blurry. I could see the blurred images of my wife to the left and my son to the right. I tried blinking quickly to make the fog in my eyes dissipate, and somehow it slowly worked. I tried to lift my head up to peer at my family better, but a rush of pain struck my head and made me grunt in agony.
Keep your head down for a little bit. You guys hit your head really hard when you fell to the ground. Do you want an ice pack?
No, I think I'll be okay, I stated. Yet as I took in my own voice, I couldn't recognize it fully. My vocals were still there, except a female voice was also present and doubled the sound. It threw me off for a couple seconds, but I quickly recalled the female being my protector child and what occurred before I blacked out. Wait a minute. Abby, please tell me you can hear everything. I waited to hear any response from her, both mentally and physically, but nothing came. At that result, I forcefully began to sit myself up. My head, of course, pounded like crazy upon that action, yet I needed to get out of that laying position. As I did that, though, I took note of how different I felt. My chest felt an abundant amount of power as it slowly spread throughout my entire body. My head seemed heavier than normal along with my back and sides. Despite that, I brought my hand up to hold my head while I called out again. Abby, please answer me. Are you all right? At my remark, without warning, my eyes closed while my head sunk to the ground. A groan escaped my mouth, and eventually She spoke.
I feel like I've been hit by a truck.
Taking in the voice again, it sounded like her human self. However, my voice was still mixed within it to double the vocals. Another hand came up and started to rub at my face on the left side. However, when I was able to open my eyes again and see who was touching me, I came across a surprising discovery. For staring down at myself, I saw that my double arms have made themselves known. Yet the shock wasn't from the arms. It was from my stature. From just a glance down at myself, I knew I had grown in width, height, and brawn. I was still concealed because of my adjusting clothes. However, my second pair of arms were being controlled by Abby. Upon the realization, my second pair of arms displayed themselves in front of me.
Darius? Are these your second arms?
My protector child asked out of the blue once more. I brought my original arms to the second pair and clenched my fists to see if she would mimic the motion. She did, and I opened my hands up again and she copied. She had control of a set of arms, while I controlled the other. Yes, they are. We must have fused within my body, and my extra limbs came out.
Dad?
Damien said, intruding on the conversation.
I don't mean to alarm anybody here, but you two are not just together within your body.
Immediately after his statement, I turned to the right to find him kneeling by my leg. What do you mean by that? If we didn't fuse in her human body, then we have to have fused within mine.
What I mean is that your features have changed. You don't look like your normal self anymore.
What?
Abby exclaimed.
Then what do we look like? There's a mirror laying against the wall near the patio doors. You could look there and examine yourselves.
Nala stated. At her statement, I began to bend my knees as if to try and stand up. However, I needed my family to back up first, before we tried to stand. We will, but you two need to back yourselves up.
But why? We can help you stand.
Because I don't want to hurt anyone with this new, apparent body. Also because I am your father and I told you so. Now please, back up so we can stand up. Damien nodded his head in agreement and backed up along with my wife. Once they were out of reach, I took a deep breath and communicated with my human. All right, Abby, move your leg to see which one you can control. Instantly upon that, I looked down at my legs to see both of them move to flatten themselves. Then they were pulled towards my body again as if they were readying to stand up.
I don't know how, but I can control both.
At that moment, I began to take control of our vessel, attempting to move my legs sideways. Upon my determination, they split apart from each other simultaneously. Then I brought them together and found that I could move both legs as well. What the hell? I said, perplexed.
How can we both control the legs? The half and half doesn't allow us to control the body like that.
I don't know. But for now, let me control the legs and get us up. Don't do anything. With that in mind, I slowly began to stand us up from the ground. As I was able to straighten myself fully, I noticed how far away from the ground we were compared to my normal height. I was actually able to touch the ceiling with my top pair of arms when before I couldn't. I predicted that the ceiling was around 12 feet tall, and from that, I draw the conclusion that I was around 10 feet tall, instead of 8.
Jesus Christ! We're so tall!
Abby said, speaking out loud.
Most definitely. You almost don't fit in the living room.
Yes, I understand that. Can we, please, make it to the mirror and not gawk just yet? Everyone stayed silent for a second, but I took advantage of the opportunity to walk us to the mirror Nala was talking about. I tried to look into it and capture the changes that were made. However, because of our size difference, we couldn't really see ourselves as a whole. The only thing I could see was my black pants that I wore. The mirror is too small. It needs to grow and expand in order to show us entirely. Just at that statement, the mirror suddenly began to grow, as if I commanded it to. I stepped back in shock as it responded, yet eventually, it took up the majority of the wall and reflected our appearance back to us. My eyes were blasted with the sight, and the first thing I noticed was the red and magenta gradient colored optics that stared right back at us. The skin tone that covered the body shifted to a lighter red, like a combination of red and pink. Better yet, it was like a salmon color, as my human would describe it. The horns upon my head had shifted slightly to the outer part of my forehead. However, their size and color changed drastically. They shifted into a gradient of black and red, while it curved into the air. They appeared to be a foot long, and almost majestic. As for my hair, it grew in length and became silver, while the roots were black. Along with that, my wings laid within their resting position, but still appeared somewhat the same. I couldn't really tell. The sunglasses upon my face were now black, with red shaded glass pieces. Then to top everything off, the collar around my neck and cuffs around my wrist were changed to red. The spikes and details were still there, except the base color of them had changed. Taking in all of the changes, my head was spiraling in circles. Why did we look like this? Where did this come from? How was this even possible? And what the hell did all of this mean? Yet before I could truly reflect upon the alterations, Abby spoke out again.
Darius, what happened to us? We don't look like ourselves.
I know. None of this seems right. I stated back to my protector child. I don't know what happened or even why it occurred. Yet I can say one thing. This does not seem like an ordinary half and half.
Abby, are you okay?
My son asked to his girlfriend.
I mean, yeah. But why are you asking that?
Because of two things. First off, you are fused with my father. Second, you're in a man's body. You don't resemble any part of being a woman, and I wanted to make sure that you were doing okay with that fact.
Damien, to be honest, that isn't my biggest concern at this point. Then what is the biggest concern at this point?
Nala asked.
I feel extremely different. There is an overabundant amount of power within my chest. I am fused with my protector demon within the demon world. We look and sound different. This is nowhere near normal. And this doesn't feel right, like Darius already stated earlier.
But it's not going to. It isn't normal to fuse with another being. It's like a dark and twisted story like Jekyll and Hyde. Two different dualities intertwined with each other. It would be extremely surprising to feel okay within that kind of form. Especially if this hasn't happened before.
Damien, I said, finally speaking out. I don't think she means that she is uncomfortable with the fact of being fused with me. She is comparing how she feels when we fuse in her body, rather than like this within mine. It feels extremely different than fusing in her body.
You feel the difference too?
Abby asked. Yes, considering we have never felt this overflowing bundle of power when we fuse in your body, that was the first thing that stuck out.
And we're not fighting for control. I don't feel like I'm being pushed back whenever you are talking.
After she brought that up, I finally realized the same fact and commented on it. You're right. That's why I haven't been able to sense you taking control. It's like we are one being instead of two, unlike within your human vessel.
Oh my God.
She said in shock. Our breath hitched for a moment as it caught in our throat, the mind spiraling out of control with different thoughts and opinions, combining hers and mine. It was almost to the point where I couldn't think straight. However, Abby decided to vocalize herself before I could try and comprehend them.
Would this be considered half and half still? Or is this something else?
I would have to assume it is something else. It works like half and half, yet this is more bizarre. I mean, for starters, the half and half wouldn't have affected the mirror, I said, pointing out the large reflective glass in front of us.
But the better question is how the mirror even grew. We didn't do anything to it. All you did was say that it needed to grow. An item in the human world grew in size.
I know. But that could be the effect that we have on this world. Something bigger is happening. I just don't know what. At that statement, an immediate flashback played within my head. I was brought back to my dream that I had on Saturday morning, after I accepted my life as a demon and was talking to myself. A particular speech came to my mind suddenly, and sounded itself. There is still one more ability that you will be gifted. The most rare of powers that any demon can have. It will make itself known abruptly. However, once it's exposed to you, you will understand everything. The time is coming for you to step into your proper place and become your true self.
Darius, what was that thought that just popped into our head? Who was that talking?
Abby said shockingly. Wait, you heard that thought too? I asked back just as confused.
Of course I heard it. I have been able to hear everything you think and feel everything you feel since I woke up. Now tell me what the hell I just heard.
It was a dream that I had on Saturday. In the morning I had my normal deal-making dream again. However, this time, I refused to save the second man, who I now know was myself. I accepted my fate, finally. And afterwards I began to talk to my demon self. What you heard was the ending statement he told me before I woke up.
What was the statement?
That one more ability was going to be gifted to him. A rare power that would abruptly show itself. But lastly, he said that the time was coming for Darius to take his proper place and become his true self. What is that supposed to mean? Is this supposed to be his true self?
Immediately after Nala's question, another memory sounded in my head, and it shook me to my very core.
You are the one who is prophesied about. You are the outcast in hell that will save us all.
Oh my God, I stated while I started to grow weary. That old man was right.
What old man? Who are you talking about?
I encountered an old man twice within the span of a human year, and he kept telling me that I was the chosen one. I thought he was completely nuts and was just trying to fill my head with such nonsense. But this past interaction with him, he gave me riddles about this prophecy that I was apparently part of.
First of all, you didn't bother to tell me about that? That's kind of important information you should have told me sooner.
I didn't believe in what he was saying. I wasn't going to tell you something that wasn't correlating with myself. I kept denying what he was saying because the puzzle pieces weren't fitting correctly. Once again, another memory sounded in my head as I was recalling the conversations between the old man and I.
The Chosen One's powers will flourish and stand out, except he will be recognized like a needle in a haystack. It is someone who we all least expect. An authentic demon that has lived in misfortune. The prophecy states that the promised demon will have a mark of odd familiarity, one of its kind. I have been living here for a long time, and have never seen a mark like that. Another thing, you are one of the tallest demons I've ever seen besides Satan himself. In fact, guessing by your height, you are around the same height as him. That isn't a coincidence. It is fate. You were destined for greatness, and it was taken away from you because of Satan and his schemes. You have been tormented all these years by your regrets and bask in them unwillingly. The time is coming, young man, where everything will be reversed, and everything will change.
As all of those statements came flooding into my head, I couldn't help but start to hyperventilate. All along, the answer to myself was right in front of my face. It was the reason why I had such mysterious and unfamiliar powers. This was why Satan has been obsessed with me since I started getting powers. That's why he has been trying to play me to get what he wants. He knows there was more going on than what meets the eye. I was somehow made to be something greater than what I was. Yet I still didn't know what. I was the chosen one to save hell. But how in the world was I able to do that? I was supposed to fulfill a prophecy that I had no clue about.
Holy shit!
Abby said, coming through to mask my freakout.
Things are starting to make sense now. No wonder you're so different. You're the chosen one.
What?
Damien cried.
The chosen one? For what?
For hell. He's the key to making hell a better place. He's almost as tall as Satan, bears a rare mark upon his arm, has spontaneous powers that are only unique to him, and being paired with me, a 20-year-old female girl from Wisconsin. Darius Stone is...
And I quickly swung my arm up to cover her mouth. I didn't want to hear the next full sentence come out of her mouth. First off, I didn't need Satan overhearing this if he was listening in on my conversations. If she were to say what she wanted to, it could, or maybe would, trigger his senses and notify him of this information. Second, I was terrified. The more she started to exalt me as being the chosen one, the more my fears swelled and consumed my mind. I didn't want that, and I started to hyperventilate again. The second pair of arms that my protector child was controlling came shooting up to try and pry mine away from my mouth, but I continued to fight her in order to hide everything. However, as this event took place, Damien and Nala rushed towards us to help in the situation.
Darius, Abby, don't start fighting now. It will be okay.
Nala said first.
We understand that this is life-changing, but if you start fighting now, we won't be able to get through it.
Damien said next. Eventually, I peered down at my family as they were now hugging each side of my hips. I immediately stopped and let go, knowing they were in reach. I didn't want to hurt them, and I knew they were only trying to advise my scattered brain. So as I lowered my arms slowly, Nala began to speak again.
My love, talk to me.
Don't try and bottle this in. Talk to your wife and tell me how you feel.
I'm scared, I said, beginning to lower myself to the ground again. I sat within a kneeling position to not appear so much like a giant to my love, and the tears began to swell in my eyes.
Why are you scared? Don't be broad. Specify. Tell me what is causing you strife.
I'm supposedly the one that people have prophesied about. A folk tale that is coming true, but I don't know what for. Whatever it is, though, it is changing me to be some grand hero, a being that I don't believe myself to be. How am I supposed to save an entire realm, Nala? What was I made to do? How can a forsaken humanoid change an eternity of wrongdoings and make it flourish into something prosperous? As I stared into my wife's eyes, I couldn't help but see how calm she was about the situation. Her tender heart didn't tremble before me, a demon that took up almost half of her living room, a being that didn't look like her husband. Yet she showed not an ounce of fear or turmoil. Instead, she grabbed my left arm and began to brush my hand to respond.
I may not know the exact situation you are in, or even why this came to be. However, I can tell you why you were chosen.
And why is that? I said, trying to hold back tears.
Because of who you are. Darius, you are such a kind and wondrous person. You have changed so many lives since you became a doctor. You care deeply about others and are nowhere near being self-absorbed. You are strong-willed and headstrong, determined to get answers and fight for what you believe in. You are both a lover and a fighter. A secret saint that was sent to this world for a reason. And now you are going to be the deliverer of a new world within the demon realm. You are going to save so many lives that exist below us. You're doing what you love to do most. Saving lives and protecting those you care for. You need to believe in yourself. Believe in what you are and conquer this obstacle. We are here with you every step of the way. Whatever this evolves into, we are here and we'll see it to the very end.
With her statement out in the open, we all fell silent. Only breath was allowed to sound within the air. My mind continuing to race as this new, powerful entity was gifted to me. An ability that I didn't know how to react to. So as I kept kneeling on the floor, I continued to stare at myself within the mirror, taking in this new version of myself that fused Abby and I together, wondering why it was so important, and how I was going to use it within the near future.
This has been Chapter 28, The Demonic Fuse, from the book, The Forbidden Truth. Tune into the next video for Chapter 29. Thank you for listening.